We're starting special for Shovavim, quick review, crash course of Ilchot Taharat HaMishpacha. Following the Sefer Darkei Tahara of Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, since it's organized very nicely in that Sefer, so in Chelek Aleph he brings down a Hakdama that you need to know that however the dam comes out of the woman, she becomes Nidah. Doesn't make a difference. If it came out be'ones uveratzon, as it starts off the halacha in the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Kuf Pei Gimel, that however the dam comes out, she becomes tameh. So that means that, let's say she went exercising and dam came out because of that, or she went through a certain emotional impact situation that the dam came out because of that, or any other way that he came out, she'll be tameh. אישה שיצא דם מרחמה בין בצורה טבעית בין באונס, דהיינו על ידי גורם קיצוני, like for instance, as we explained, she jumped, or let's say she went to a doctor, and the doctor opened up the rechem, the womb, she becomes tameh, תמאה טומאת נידה. ואין צורך שיוצא הדם מחוץ לגופה, which means, where does the dam come out from to render her nidah? It has to come out from the ben hashinaim. Ben hashinaim is the cervix, which means the way the woman's body is built is that you have inside the rechem, that's all the way in the back, that's the womb, the uterus, and afterwards you have an opening that comes through into the posdor. And that opening is called the cervix, and you have over there, it's a small tube that has an inner opening and an outer opening, the external as and the internal as. As soon as the dam comes out from the external as, that's called ben hashinaim, she becomes tameh. It does not need to come out of the body like other tumot v'tarot laws, that the tum'ah has to come out of the body. Rather, over here, as soon as it came out of ben hashinaim, and it is still within the body itself, it's still considered nidah. ואין צורך שיצא הדם מחוץ לגופה, אלא כיוון שיצא מהרחם לפרוזדור, האישה טמאה nidah. So that means that if a woman goes to a doctor appointment, a checkup, and for some reason he would open up the rechem, what does that mean? He would open up the cervix. Usually it doesn't happen. Almost all the checkings that a woman goes through, they don't do that. It's very painful. And the normal checkings that they do in a woman doesn't go through that. And although she sees dam afterwards, it would be a dam that came out of irritation of a cut or some other irritation that they made around the place, but not a dam that comes from inside. But every time a woman goes to the doctor, she needs to know what procedure she goes through and what it does, and she should ask a question instead in case she saw dam. So it says here that טומאה זו אינה כטומאה שהייתה בזמן שבית המקדש היה קיים, אלא הרי איסור קרבה של בעלה אליה. It's not the same טומאה as we're talking about in טומאות וטהרות, although it does have an aspect of that as well, but when it's נוגע us להלכה למעשה, we're talking about, is a woman allowed to be together with her husband or no, together with all the laws that come with that, the הרחקות. בין קרבה גופנית, בין קרבה של ביאה, כפי שהתבאר לקמן. Now, מן התורה, when we're dealing with Torah, Torah law says there's a difference between Nidah and Zava. The halacha of Nidah and Zava is brought down in Parashat Metzorah, in the end of Parashat Metzorah. The Torah says two different laws for Nidah and Zava. Nidah and Zava are differentiated between the time of the month that a woman sees, which means we divided the days into 7 and 11. It's Shiv'a Yemei Nidah, and then you have 11 days of Zava. If she sees on those 7 days, she'll be a Nidah. She sees in the 11 days, she'll be Zava. And there's ways how to calculate the Nidah days and Zava, Machloket Rambam and other Rishonim. Rambam holds you always calculate from the first time she sees dam in her life, forever 7/11, 7/11, 7/11. She writes on a calendar like this, until the end of her days. And then she knows, if she saw on the calendar on the 7th day, she'll be a Nidah. She saw on the 11th day, she'll be a Zava. Other Rishonim argue on that and say, no, it renews itself every time she sees a period, which means from then on, she starts counting 7-11. And then, after the 11 days are gone, she goes back to Yemei Nidah. However it is, it doesn't make a difference halacha lema'aseh, because Bnot Yisrael ichmiru al atzmam, that even if she sees a little bit of dam tipat dam kechardal, they were machmir, that they tmeot like a zava. But to understand the din Torah,
in that time they didn't know the difference.
Oh, so yes, they didn't. It became confusing to know, said the 7 and 11, where you're holding. So now, the difference between Nidah and Zava are very big. Nidah, if a woman sees one time during the Nidah days, she'll be Nidah for 7 days. One re'iyah of dam during the 7 days of Nidah, she'll be Nidah for 7 days. And Zava doesn't work like that. Zava works that if she sees one time, she'll be Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom, which means she's Nidah, she's Zava on that day, it's called Zava Ktana, and the next day she'll keep Betara, which means if it's considered the whole day clean, she goes to the mikveh and she's clean the next night, right? So you also have a Zava that is 2 days. 2 days, she's still a Zava Ktana. She'll be Shomeret Yom Keneged Yom. The 3rd day she keeps clean, she doesn't see on that day, and she goes to the mikveh. And then you have Zava Gdola. Zava Gdola means a woman that saw 3 days. If she saw 3 days now, she has to wait until she's clean and count Shiva Nekim. So Shiva Nekim concept is in Zava, not in Nidah. In Nidah, there's no Shiva Nekim. Rather, whenever a woman sees dam, whether she sees one time, one instant, or she sees the whole 7 days, as soon as the dam ended, when the 7th day ended, on the 8th night, the 7th night, which is the 8th day, she goes to the mikveh and she's tahor. This is the din of Nidah.
Maybe it's ended in 9 days.
9 days, so she goes to the mikveh on the 9th night. That's it. That's a Nidah. Nidah keeps only 7 days. If it's more than 7 days, more, but not less. But that's it. There's no Shiva Nekim for Nidah. For Zava, you have Zava Gdola. You have to wait until she clears, and then she counts Shiva Nekim. מדין תורה יש 2 סוגי טומאות לאישה, נידה וזבה, ויש הרבה הבדלים ביניהם לעניין קורבנות בזמן שבית המקדש קיים, לעניין 7 נקיים שזבה חייבת לספור, ועוד, אך בנות ישראל החמירו על עצמם שעל כל טיפת דם קטנה כחרדל יושבות הן 7 נקיים כמו זבה גדולה. That's it. סיבות רבות לחומרה זו, החשובה שבהם, he says there's many reasons, the two the Bet Yosef in Siman Kuf Pei Gimel goes through a lengthy discussion what's the different Rishonim's opinion on this Chumrah. והחשובה שבהם, the most important reason of all, שכדי שתהיה ספירה אחידה לכל אנשים, ולא תצטרך כל אחת ואחת לחשב לעצמה חשבונות מסובכים שלא כולם בקיאים בהם. If you're not doing it in this system, there's going to be confusion. Each woman is going to do a different counting. They're not going to know where they're holding. Therefore, when you do it this way, it's simple and easy. דין זה, אף על פי שהוא חומרה, נקבע כהלכה שאין עליה עוררין, which means, although it says in the Gemara, בנות ישראל החמירו על עצמם. They took a chumrah upon themselves. Don't think it's only a chumrah. It's a halacha gemura that one must keep, halacha psuka, just like it says in the Gemara, in Brachot Lamed Aleph, that this is הלכה פסוקה, לגבי הנאמר ושניים עומדים להתפלל אלא מתוך הלכה פסוקה, which means, the Gemara says that in הלכות תפילה, before you start praying, you can't start being learning in depth all kind of different complicated laws. Why? Because then you get into your tefillah, and instead of thinking about what you're saying, you start thinking about the sugya you just learned. You can't get your head off the sugya that you just learned. But you could learn, and you should learn, halacha psuka, something simple, without complications, without different opinions. And this is the example that the Gemara brings over there in Brachot to a simple halacha psuka, that nobody argues and everybody follows. This is the halacha that it says over there, that בנות ישראל החמירו על עצמם, שעל כל טיפת דם קטנה כחרדל יושבות 7 נקיים. That's it, כזבה. So now, before we even start, the basic halachot are, there's a difference between Nidah deoraita and Nidah derabanan. What is the main difference between Nidah deoraita and Nidah derabanan? The Torah says that in order for a woman to become tameh, she needs to see together with a hargasha, with a feeling that the dam has come out of the body. It has to be together with a feeling. Now, if it doesn't have that feeling, that hargasha, that you learn from the words bivsara means that the Gemara learns that she felt that it came out. If you don't have a hargasha, she's not a nidah deoraita. She's only the rabbanan. It's called the ketem. What's the hargasha? What's the hargasha we're talking about? Machloket rishonim. Rambam and Trumat Adeshen. Rambam says she feels a shivering. Nizdazea gufa. According to Trumat Adeshen, it means ptichat pi hamakor. She felt like a pinch that the makor opened up. What's the makor again? The cervix, the external as that we explained. Just like a person sometimes when he goes to the bathroom, he feels like when it starts coming out, he feels like a pinch. Especially sometimes when a person holds himself, he feels like a pinch. That pinch is the hargasha that we're talking about according to Trumat Adeshen. The Shulchan Aruch in 2 places mentions this hargasha of ptichat pi hamakor. This is how he starts the Shulchan Aruch, and then later on he says that also in Kuf Tzadik. So therefore, a woman that feels one of those 2 hargashot and she sees dam, she becomes tmeah deoraita. There's a third hargasha that's being a machloket, known as the machloket Noda b'Yehuda and Chatam Sofer. The Noda b'Yehuda says that there's another hargasha of zivat davar lach. She feels something coming out of the body, something wetness comes out of the body. The Chatam Sofer says that since we didn't find this hargasha in the Gemara and the Rishonim, there's no such hargasha, and that's a machloket. Up to our time, do we consider that a hargasha or we don't consider that a hargasha? Now, practically speaking, today women don't have hargashot. In the time of the Gemara, in the time of the Shulchan Aruch says that when a woman sees, she normally sees with hargasha. The Rambam says such a lashon that chazaka al dam shenimtza betoch gufa shel isha sheba im hargasha. Every time a woman sees dam, it came together with hargasha. But the poskim bring down that in our generation, there's no hargashot. Woman hardly ever feels any hargasha where the dam comes out. She just feels that it becomes wet on the underwear. And even the hargashat davar lach is not really a hargasha because she doesn't feel. The hargashat davar lach has to be within the body. And the Chavot Da'at explained it has to be deep in the body, close to ben hashinaim, to the place that it comes out. But today the hargasha of zivat davar lach that a woman feels is something totally different. She feels some wet that came out. That already when it's out, she feels herself wet. That's not the hargasha we're talking about at all. So therefore, if a woman says that I felt a hargasha of the dam coming out, you have to ask her, did you really feel it inside? Or you felt it after it came out and you felt the underwear is getting wet and you felt yourself getting wet. That is normally what a woman would feel. Or she would tell you, you know what, I don't know. If she doesn't know, so definitely you can consider her tahor for that reason. Or it depends if she's tameh mituam tumat ktamim. But definitely not tameh deoraita. We're going to see that there's a lot of differences in this din of having hargasha or not having hargasha between the tumat deoraita or the rabbanan, because when we're dealing with the tumat deoraita, we don't have any place for leniencies. But when we're dealing with the tumat derabanan, tumat ktamim, that doesn't come with a hargasha, we have a lot of leniencies that the halacha applies. So,
well, from experience,
yeah.
These hargashot are common?
Uncommon, almost never happen. Mamash never almost happen that a woman has hargasha, and if a woman asks and she calls and she says, I had a hargasha, if you do a little bit asking, you'll see that the Harasha she had is that Harasha that I mentioned right now, nothing else.
How about pinch?
The pinch also almost never happens. Never happens. Now, the question...
I never have a woman that had an Harasha. That's my question.
I myself had a couple of times women that said they had a Harasha of a real Harasha, not a real Harasha. Many women ask, I had Harasha, because they learned that there's got to be a Harasha together in order to be Tameh Deoraita, and therefore if she sees, for instance, on color, she'll be Tameh because she felt Harasha. The leniencies don't apply. But when you ask them, you see that the Harasha they felt was the wet on the underwear, or wet that comes out, but that wetness that comes out doesn't metameh. Chazon Ish says, an interesting insight, he says that it's very strange, this Harasha of the Noda B'Yehuda, because a person doesn't feel anything floating in his body. As long as within your body, you're not going to feel it. We don't feel the blood floating in our body. We don't feel anything that happens. There's no feeling that we feel within the internal body. So therefore, he doesn't understand how could you have such a Harasha, internal Harasha. But if a woman does say that she has a Harasha of such a pinch or something like that, so you have to be metameh. Many times, even if a woman says that, it could be that it's nervousness. Women are very nervous when it comes to Ilchot Nidah. It could be all kind of things along those lines. But if she says, I had such Harasha, you have no choice but to be metameh. Also, the Shevet HaLevi starts off. It's almost not Shayach. Shevet HaLevi also starts off like this, and he says that today women don't have Hargashot. The question is, if she doesn't have Hargashot, how could you be Tameh at all, even if she sees a full flow of period, and it comes out, but it comes out on color underwear, or on a pad that the poskim hold that it's not metameh, so how could she become Tameh? She should stay Tahor, because she saw, yes she saw, but she saw on color. So then the poskim bring down that as long as it's a ketem, a stain, it's considered tum'ah mid'Rabbanan, if it came without Harasha, and therefore you apply the leniencies that we'll see of ktamim, on color, on davar she'eno mekabel tum'ah, and so on and so forth, or it doesn't have a shiur. But if a woman saw a large amount of dam, that we consider the period, and we consider her tameh. What's the reason we consider her tameh? Because they use such a lashon that's really brought down already in the Rishonim. Rambam brings such a lashon that she really felt and she didn't pay attention to it. Hargasha velavadaita. She felt, but we're so busy today that we don't pay attention to our body. So therefore, she's busy taking care of millions of things during the day, as normal people do, and especially wives. They're busy with children, with the house, with the husband, with work, with so many things. And even at the time that they're not busy, they're relaxing and they're drinking their coffee, their head is on a million things. So therefore, you don't pay attention to your body. I told, last time I gave a shiur in my kollel, I told them that sometimes you should make this test on yourself, and you should just relax for a second and try to concentrate on your body, and all of a sudden you'll feel all kind of simple things that you didn't feel before. Like for instance, your toe hurts, your head hurts, your ear hurts, you have a small toothache that you didn't pay attention, didn't even notice. But when you calm yourself down, you try to concentrate on your body, you'll see that you feel things that you didn't feel it otherwise. So this is what happens over here as well. The woman does really feel when the dam comes out, but that feeling is being overlooked by her because she's so busy with so many things. Although the Gemara says, the time of the Gemara says that a feeling of a woman would be so painful that even if she would be sleeping, it would wake her up. But today it doesn't work like that. Today the feeling is not that painful. But still, there is a certain feeling that a woman feels when it comes out. So you have...
What do you think the reason why this changed? This is a new thing that it changed like this?
Yeah, the body changed, the biology of a person changed, and there's a lot of things that changed within time. Not only that, va'im nishtanu. Many things have changed since the time of Chazal. And that is one of the things. Yeah, so now you have two different instances of Hargasha. One is Re'iyah below Hargasha, and one is Hargasha belo re'iyah, which means sometimes a woman would, as we explained right now, see dam, but she didn't feel it. So you render this as a ketem derabanan, which will apply the leniencies we'll see soon. And sometimes a woman would actually feel a feeling of those that we explained before, ptichat pi hamakor or nizdazeh gufa of the Rambam. But nizdazeh gufa means the shivering. Also, a person sometimes goes to the bathroom and he feels like a shiver like this. That's the shivering she'll feel. But when she looks, she doesn't see any dam. So over here, we're saying that a woman needs, when that happens, she needs to make a bedika. And he says like this in the Sefer. Every time she sees, this is what Chachamim said, this is how it's brought down, that every time she sees dam, for sure it came together with a hargasha. Now we're saying today it doesn't necessarily apply. לכן אישה שבדקה את עצמה בדיקה פנימית ומצאה דם, יש להניח שהרגישה בעת הבדיקה. אך הרגשת הבדיקה הכתה את ההרגשה של יציאת הדם ואישה טמאה דאורייתא. Which means like this. You have three instances that a woman will be tameh although she didn't feel. And she'll be tameh deoraita. One of the instances is if she saw dam with a check. When a woman checks with a cloth, or whenever she puts anything inside the body, sometimes women enter other things inside the body. Whenever a woman enters anything inside the body, like for instance, a woman that puts a douche inside, a woman that puts all kind of different things in order to prevent that if the blood starts, it would be soaked in it, and so on and so forth. Different things are going inside. Those things would, if it comes out with blood, even tipat dam kechardal, the smallest amount of blood, that will make her a tameh deoraita, or at least a safek tumah deoraita. Why is that? Because we're saying that together with putting in the cloth, she had a hargasha of dam coming out, which means a ptichat pi hamakor. But since the cloth was there, she was mistaken to think that the hargasha was the hargasha of the cloth and not the hargasha of the dam coming out. And therefore she's tameh. That's why every time a woman checks with a cloth, she's tameh if she sees dam. Unlike if she would be on the underwear, then you have different laws, completely different laws. You have to have shiur, you have to have a color, you have to have davar mekabel tumah, all kind of different laws. But with a cloth, it doesn't make a difference if it's colored, and the size, mekabel tumah, whatever it is. Also a finger, for instance, doesn't have to be a cloth. Also, for the same token, the same thing would be with an ever tashmish. Where a person is meshamesh mitato, and it comes out with dam, even if he doesn't see the dam right away, he wakes up in the morning, he sees dam. When he sees dam on himself, unless there was a cut, she is tameh, because this is considered the same thing. At the time that he went inside, she had maybe a dam nidah, hargasha together with it, it came out, and on the same time, that since she was meshamesh the mitah, she didn't feel it. She felt the argasha of the shamash, of the ever tashmish, that the husband is meshamesh with her, and therefore she'll be tameh. Although she says, I didn't feel any dam coming out, I didn't feel zizu aguf, I didn't feel ptichat pi hamakor. That's because she was busy feeling other feelings. But we're really saying that you must have felt that dam because בדת הרגשה, because חזקה אדם שנמצא בתוך גוף האישה, שבא עם ההרגשה. Now again, it's מחלוקת ראשונים and אחרונים, if she's תמא דאורייתא או דרבנן, מחלוקת דשב יעקב and אב בית דין דמיץ. This is how it's brought down, and many poskim have different approaches how to see it להלכה למעשה. But regardless, she'll be תמא דרבנן לכל הפחות. Another time that she'll be תמא, a third instance is if she went to the bathroom and she saw dam together with the meraglaim. Now this is something that we need to speak in length, but the idea that we're trying to say over here, chavot dat, the first chavot dat that's brought down in the Pitchet Shuvah in Ilchot Nidah and Kuf Pei Gimel, he brings those three things, and meraglaim also, when she goes to the bathroom, we're saying the same thing, that as soon as she's going to the bathroom, she feels something coming out. Now we're saying that she felt the dam nidah, but she thinks and she feels that it's only the dam the meraglaim coming out, the urine coming out. Huh? Of course not. No, meraglaim is not metameh. Meraglaim comes out.
Meraglaim means she went to the bathroom.
She went to the bathroom. Meraglaim, she went to the bathroom. The urine comes out right before the opening of the woman, which means it's very, very far from where the dam comes out. We're talking about the ben hashinaim, the cervix, and over here is the urethra where it goes into the bladder. It's mamash on the opening. So therefore, that's definitely not metameh. But if dam comes out, so we have a whole sugya in Kuf Tzadik Aleph, in Shulchan Aruch, Shmachloket Shulchan Aruch and the Rama, when a woman will be metameh in meraglaim or not. But even in Shulchan Aruch, there'll be instances that she'll be tameh, as the Chavod Da'at brings over here, and we'll see what the explanation is when we get to that sugya. But we're saying that there's 3 instances that a woman would become tameh and be considered a hargasha that would be metameh that woman mideoraita. And therefore, we wouldn't apply any of the leniencies. If a woman felt a hargasha and she didn't see דם, כל זה מדובר בבדיקה פנימית שאפשר שתחל את הרגשת יציאת הדם, אבל בקינוח חיצוני שטחי, that's 1 minute, he's still on what we're saying before. When a woman wipes herself, that's not the same as checking inside. When a woman wipes herself with a tissue after a bathroom, that, according to majority of poskim, we metaher. Sfaradim definitely metaher when a woman wipes herself and she sees dam on the wipe. Sfaradim across the board say that she's tahor. Even Ashkenazim, most of the poskim are not metameh. Even those that are metameh, they're saying that it has to be that she wiped herself right after the stream. She goes to the bathroom, she has a stream, and then she drips. So Moshe says that if she waited until the dripping ends, as usually women do, so then a shiur of otyom, which means immediately right after, would already pass, and she's not going to be tameh. So unless those that are machmir, they're talking in the case that right after the stream, Ramosha says, let's say she was busy, she had to run, get the kid, she had something on the fire, the phone was ringing, she had to run. So right after the stream, she wiped and she ran, she saw dam, then that's a tzad to be machmir. Now let's just go back to what I wanted to tell you before. Yeah. Yes.
Any questions? Does she have to do b'dika after that?
No, absolutely not. Whenever a woman does b'dika, if a woman is not required, it's a very, very important thing that to know. When a woman does, when the halakha doesn't require you to do b'dika, you should not do b'dika. So some poskim bring down that whenever a woman sees dam and she's tahor, she should do b'dika, just to make sure. And there's another approach to that. Many of the poskim that say that that's namash the wrong approach, because if you do b'dika after you saw dam, you'll be metameh Yosef. Right now she's tahor. You want to keep the woman tahor as much as possible in order not to have her asur.
Doesn't the Mishnah say
כל היד המרבה לבדוק הרי זה משובחת? That is true when a woman is not, when a woman does not see dam. When a woman sees dam right now, you have to try not to be metameh the woman. That is normally when a woman is clean. Now, even that, the poskim bring down, Shevet HaLevi says, that does not apply in our generation. Brisker Rav said like this, Shevet HaLevi brings like this, that it doesn't apply in our generation, because today, it's not anymore kol hayad hamarba livdok, mareze meshubachat. On the contrary, because a woman would, by checking over and over again, would bruise herself. And a woman should not bruise herself. Today, women are much more sensitive than they used to be. And back then, when Chazal said it, they were able to check a few times during the day. Kol hayad hamarba livdok doesn't mean every instance. It means a few times during the day. That's how the Shevet HaLevi explains.
Maybe that Mishnah is also only until the Torah.
But that's brought down in Halakha and Shulchan Aruch. It's brought down in Halakha and Shulchan Aruch in Kuf Pei Dal. Yeah. So
what are the 3
things that she'll be safek, tameh, and will be metameh? One of the things, if she sees dam after bedika, so the cloth came out tameh, she did a random bedika, boom, dam, she'll be tameh. Another one, well, Well, מחלוקת if it's דאורייתא or דרבנן, but she's definitely טמא. We חושש שהייתה הרגשה דאורייתא. Depends on the color that came out on the cloth, for sure, if it's a color of blood. And that you shouldn't be posek on yourself until you have enough experience that you showed enough cloth to the rabbi to know this color always came out to say that it's good. Otherwise, you mesupak, you ask a rabbi, you see that kalot bring you cloth that mamash, you don't even see that they did bdika with it, and they're not sure. And they circle places around it, like, you know, that the rabbi should know where it is. But usually, it's all fine. But that's a good approach, because in the beginning, you don't know. When you don't know, you have to ask everything until you build some confidence, and then you only stay with questions that are real questions. But that's a very important thing, to ask in Ilchot Nidah, people make mistakes right and left. They don't know the halachot. And therefore, those that take it upon themselves to be posek for themselves without calling a rabbi and asking, they can make critical mistakes of ilchot nidah. They could be with their wives when she mamash nidah. And I had heard stories of people that make simple mistakes that mamash, instead of a woman being tahor, she was tameh, and they were with her. Whether she went to the mikveh too early, she made the check-in the wrong time, all kind of things that are. So anyway. Over here we're saying there's three argashot. One argasha is the argasha, not the three argashot. Three instances that you'll say that we suspect maybe there was argasha. One in the cloth, another one with the tashmish, when she was together with the husband. So that's also something that one needs to pay attention. If she sees, for instance, on the sheets, dam after they were together, that shows that there was dam while they were together. If her husband sees on the ever tashmish, even in the morning, that shows that they had dam while they were together. And a woman that sees dam right away.
The next morning when the husband sees on his the dam, but she doesn't see the dam anymore.
Right. So that's like a bdika cloth that we mentioned right now. If you make a bdika with a bdika cloth and you keep it, because since it's dark you don't see what it is, you keep it on the table, and the next morning you look at it and it's bloody, of course, you'll be tameh. So ever tashmish is not any different. And not only that, anything that a woman would put inside, that's why a woman should not really put things inside. The less you put inside, the safer it is. And then you have the third thing is with the meraglaim, that's needs a little bit more details to explain when she would be tameh with all that. More questions, B'chavod.
Why women have this whole topic? Men are fine. Women were punished. What is this inyan?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not sure if you look at it as that the woman was punished. Maybe I'm saying many times it's the men that you know. But let's close.